This is a pivotal year for James Franklin and Penn State, and quarterback Drew Allar needs to up his game. But some things are breaking in Penn State's favor this year. I'll tell you what. Next, Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and a play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As we are into the summertime here, sports aren't sportsing the way they used to, but FanDuel is hooking up all customers with boosts or bonus daily. That's right. Something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com and get started. Is this Penn State's breakout year? We're going to look at their schedule. Vegas, speaking of FanDuel, has 9.5 wins. Which side of the fence are they on? And we're talking about Penn State, a team with great running backs. We're going to power rank running backs in the Big Ten at the end of the podcast, so hang tight for that. Here's the story on Penn State that everybody knows. They're good. They want to be great. They've gone 10-2 back-to-back regular seasons. The two losses are always to Michigan and Ohio State. So what's it going to take for James Franklin to take the next step and be elite at Penn State? He's been there 10 years now. Anyway, that's the continuing storyline for Penn State that everybody talks about in a nutshell. Now, two things are in Penn State's favor for 2024. First of all, they don't play Michigan. All right, that's good. The playoffs now include 12 teams instead of 4. And if Penn State has its usual 10-2 regular season, they're going to be a playoff team, period. Might even do better than 10-2. Penn State expects to be in the playoffs regularly now moving forward. The home games in the playoffs moving forward. After all, they're spending $700 million to improve Beaver Stadium. That's one of the reasons. So how does 2024 look? Well, let's take a look. Point blank, quarterback Drew Allar, got to be better. Got to be better. Start living up to the 5-star expectations. This coaching staff, though, drilled into his head that it was imperative. Do not turn the ball over. And he didn't. In fact, he only threw 2 interceptions last year, along with 25 touchdowns. That's pretty good on its face value. But he got real conservative in order to not turn the ball over. He didn't take chances downfield. Became a shell of himself as the season went on. I thought he actually regressed quite a bit. In fact, despite taking fewer chances downfield, his completion percentage was barely 60%, just under that. And it's got to be better out of a 5-star quarterback. In fact, that's exactly the same thing that I criticized Will Howard about, who's going to be the new quarterback at Ohio State. Yesterday, we did our Buckeyes season preview. By the way, feel free to catch that podcast. You can find all of our podcasts on our website, talkbig10number10.com. But back to Penn State. Perhaps some good news for Drew Allar. There's a new offensive coordinator this year, Andy Kotelnicki. And he comes from Kansas, where he just loved to use motion, move players around, movement, formations. Hopefully this will help Allar get a better pre-snap read and get some guys open against the defense. Which leads me to the next challenge. Penn State didn't have, and in my opinion, still doesn't have, game-breaking wide receivers on the outside to loosen things up a little bit, stretch the top of the defenses somewhat. Now, they did get Ohio State transfer Julian Fleming, so we'll see if that helps. I don't know if he's at the level that they need, but it should help. Also watch tight end Tyler Warren this year, senior, 6'6", great size, 7 touchdown catches last year. Could be a good weapon again this year. I would see no reason why he wouldn't be. Now, they, at the end of the day, can just most likely rely on a running game again. And they've got some work to do, though, up front for guys that are going to be blocking them. They lost a great lineman in Oli Fashanu. He's in the NFL. He was first-team All-American. But they have one of the greatest running back tandems in the Big Ten and in college football with Nicholas Singleton and, of course, Katron Allen, who come back again. The pass rush on the other side of the ball loses quite a bit. Chop Robinson, Dysa Isaac, They're both in the NFL now. Isaac was the Big Ten edge rusher of the year, but edge rusher Abdul Carter, second team all Big Ten, and he returns ready. His turn to really shine here, and he's looking for a big year. He's a versatile player. He's one of those guys he can play with his hand in the dirt up front or back up at linebacker, either way. And versatile hybrid player. There are whispers of Micah Parsons when people in Happy Valley talk about him. That's high praise. Now, the Nittany Lion defense was elite last year. You know that if you're a Penn State fan watching this. Very elite. And a lot of other losses, too, in addition to the ones we talked about up front. Kalen King, Daquan Hardy, Johnny Dixon, all gone, but they do return safety Jalen Reed. And they picked up corner A.J. Harris from the portal from Georgia. Played 7 games as a freshman there. So, and there'll be a new voice leading this defense as well. Not only did James Franklin get a new offensive coordinator, like we just talked about, and Andy Kolanecki, but he also hired a new defensive coordinator. Remember, Manny Diaz did a great job there at Penn State. He left for Duke. And so Franklin brought in a very enthusiastic former head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers, Tom Allen, to run the defense. Now, while Allen had a few good moments at Indiana as the head coach, things seemed to fall apart a little bit in the last couple of years at the end of his tenure in Bloomington. But he is a defensive-minded coach. And even though that didn't translate into a lot of wins at Indiana, other coaches noted that Indiana's defensive schemes were pretty solid, pretty good defenses, despite even lesser talent in many cases. And IU gave Penn State some fits over the years. James Franklin noticed. So he hired Tom Allen to come in and run the defense. So a lot of changes, a lot of new personnel at Penn State this year, both in the coaching staff with 2 new coordinators and players with some couple players that have been there, next man up kind of thing, and a couple other players in the transfer portal. But at the end of the day, it's going to come back to this offense and how they play. I have no doubt that they will be solid defensively again. I don't know if they're going to be as elite as they were, you know, the whole story with Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, 1, 2, 3, not just in the conference, but in the country. It was ridiculous how good the defense was last year. I don't know if they return to that level or not, although they should be pretty good, but they've got to get more out of the passing game. That goes back to Drew Allar, and there are a lot of expectations on him. But look, you can look at last year. He got a whole full year of being the starting guy. That's great, valuable experience. And he's coming back. Now he's got to relearn a different offense now with the new offensive coordinator. But, you know, you can always still rely on the running game a little bit. And I'm curious to see how this offense looks. It's going to look very unlike Penn State. And it's going to be maybe a little more modern. And with all the movement and the formations and all that, I'm as curious as anybody to see how it goes. And if it starts clicking, maybe some big things can happen. If they get some more offense. It's not like Penn State was horrible. It's not like Drew Allar was horrible. Although he did go backwards. He still put up some amazing, the 25 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. You don't see ratios like that very often. He could be a guy that can get into the 30s in touchdown passes. Maybe it'll cost him a few more interceptions here or there. Maybe he's got 5 or 6 interceptions. We'd take that, right? Anyway, these are the things we're kind of looking for. I need a different look with this offense. They're going to get it. And I'm going to be just as curious as you guys to see how it looks and how it all comes together and see what Penn State could do. Very intriguing, to say the least. If you like what you hear, we're doing a new team every day in the Big Ten. If you're a Penn State fan or anybody else in the Big Ten, be sure to subscribe and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. The audio versions come out, if you are an audio-only person, at 4 a.m. Eastern. The video on YouTube comes out at 6 a.m. every single day. If you subscribe, you're good. You're right with us. And don't forget to pick up some Penn State gear right on our very own website, talkbig10number10.com. It's where we put all of our podcasts chronologically and also by team or school. Like when this is done, this is going to go underneath Penn State. So if you're a Penn State fan, you can see all the podcasts that kind of focused on Penn State right there at your fingertips. And while you're there, get yourself a Penn State hat, shirt, pennants, or something for your office, ready to go for the upcoming season. So Penn State win totals, FanDuel and many others have it at 9.5. Again, this is a team that's won 10 regular season games the last 2 years. They got right at 9.5. Do you think they go over? They get back to 10, back to double digits, 11? Is that possible? Or they fall back, maybe 8 wins. You take the under. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to look at the schedule, and we're going to see where this number comes in. Again, no Michigan on the schedule, so I will tell you what the 2 most critical games are on the schedule coming up this year for Penn State. Also, we have some recruiting news. This involves Penn State, and it's not good. It's not good. Even though there have been a lot of good stories here in the offseason, just the absolute latest. We'll have all of that, and then we're ranking running backs with our power rankings every Wednesday. We rank something, so we'll have that. It's all coming up in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. FanDuel, right? We all love sports, and FanDuel makes it even better. We never want the sports to stop. And yeah, things may slow down a little bit in the summertime. A lot of baseball, though. A lot of baseball. And FanDuel lets you be involved every single day. Just open up the app. You can dream up bets at any time right there when you're in the mood. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com. It's FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Speaking of baseball here on Wednesday night, I got a couple for you. First of all, take the Twins over the White Sox. Take it early. If you're watching this earlier today, that's a day game. You could parlay a couple of games tonight with the O's over the Cubs and the Guardians over the Tigers, and then take the under in the Dodgers Phillies later on tonight. Also, I like the Astros over the Marlins in action tonight. It's all there at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. All right, I want to thank everybody for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And one more reminder, don't forget to check out our website, talkbig10.com, for all of our podcasts and merchandise for your favorite school. Let's take a look at the Penn State Nittany Lions football schedule for 2024. Again, the line on them for the year, 9.5 wins. So you can take the over or take the under. We'll take it. We'll start off August 31st. As you know, they've got West Virginia. This was at West Virginia. West Virginia came to Penn State last year. Now it's at West Virginia. They'll be ready. They'll be excited for Penn State up there, but Penn State should win that ball game. They've got a Bowling Green team coming in the first week of September, second week of the season. So I think a 2-0, and then Kent State on September 21st after a bye week, an early bye week, the middle of September, getting ready for Kent State. They should be 3-0 at that point, and then close out September with a home game against Illinois. I haven't heard – there was some talk that was going to be the whiteout game. Can't do Ohio State later because it's too late in November. Nevertheless, then Saturday, so 4-0, okay, 4-0. And then 1-0 in the Big Ten after the Illinois game. Then they got UCLA. Should be able to win that one. UCLA does not have their act together. And then at Southern Cal, October 12th. I think that's going to be a heck of a ball game. I really do. Let's table that one for a minute. At Wisconsin, that could be a tough game. I think the Nittany Lions can win that game. Then the November 2nd game against Ohio State. It's a home game, so they got that going for them. But, man, Ohio State's loaded. I right now, as I sit here today, I don't feel good about that game for Penn State fans. I think Ohio State wins it. Again, I know. No Michigan this year. Game against Washington, November 9th at home. That should be a win. At Purdue should be a win. At Minnesota should be a win. And then close it out on Saturday, November 30th against Maryland. That should be a win. So I've got 10 wins. I've got 1 loss to Ohio State, and we have to decide what we're going to do with the Southern Cal game. That's on the road. even if they lose that game at 10-2 again, take the over on the 9.5, and 10-2 gets Penn State in the playoffs. I'm absolutely convinced of it, the 12-team playoffs. So there you have it. They could be looking at another 10-2 season, 3 seasons in a row. Hey, look, you win the Southern Cal game, 11-1. Fantastic season. 11-1, and you're probably playing in the Big Ten championship game too. Probably against Ohio State or Oregon or whoever. It's going to be a great year. I can't wait. Let me know what you think about that. By the way, we got some recruiting news. You know, Penn State had hoped to land 4-star tight end Andrew Allar, but on Tuesday, the 6'5", 215-pounder picked Michigan over the Nittany Lions and also over Bama and Florida State as well. And that's a tough blow because the kid's from Center Valley, Pennsylvania. And during his junior season in high school, had 53 catches, 972 yards, and 10 receiving touchdowns. He was the number 1 tight end and the 4th best player in Pennsylvania. So that's tough that James Franklin and company could not keep him in state. He is committed to going to Michigan. Hey, you never know. These kids flip all the time. Maybe he'll change his mind, come back home to Penn State. By the way, speaking of Michigan, they had a good day because they also got Notre Dame commit, 4-star corner Ivan Taylor, to flip to Ann Arbor. Stole him from Notre Dame. He's the son of former Steeler and 2-time Super Bowl winner Ike Taylor. And, you know, after a slow start, Sharon Moore and the Wolverines are putting together a nice class for 2025. People were looking at Penn State being, or rather Ohio State being number 1 in the country and just killing it with recruiting, killing everybody. Michigan's starting to come along, and they have the 11th ranked class in the country right now, 3rd best in the Big Ten thus far. Daytime TV. Do you ever watch it? Don't stop. Who wants to watch talking heads yelling at each other on ESPN and FS1 all day? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming and the nonsense. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube, or get it on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app we tell you about from time to time. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, if you're new to the podcast, you know, in our final segment, we always have a certain segment that we do, a feature that we do. Mondays is our Big Ten Top 10 observations. Tuesdays are Tuesday tweets that we pull from you guys on Twitter, X. Wednesdays, we do power rankings. Thursdays, we look at the Big Ten network schedule. And Friday, we have picks. We're going to look, since we talked about Penn State today, and they have a great tandem of running backs, we're going to power rank the Big Ten running backs this year. See where the Nittany Lions dynamic duo fit on the list as well. That's all coming up next right here on the Locked On Big Ten. All right. Locked On Big Ten. We're going to take a look at our power rankings here today, and we're going to look at running backs. All right. I'm going to put this on screen. We're going to go, if you're audio only, we will describe in detail what we're putting on screen here. Here is our list and our power rankings for running backs in the Big Ten this year. And a big shout out to Rutgers running back Kyle Monangai. This guy was the leading rusher in the Big Ten last year. It wasn't Blake Corum. It wasn't Trevion Henderson. It was Kyle Monangai at Rutgers. So we got to give him some love here going into the season. He came back for another year. 1,340 all-purpose yards, 8 touchdowns, 5.2 yards per carry. And again, the leading rusher in the Big Ten. That's got to mean something. Coming in at number 2 on our power rankings, Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss, transferring in, all SEC, 1,307 all-purpose yards, 17 touchdowns at Ole Miss last year, and a 4.3 average per carry. I have grouped both Penn State running backs Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen back-to-back, number 3, number 4. They come together. They're a pair. I can't even split them up here. They are the dynamic duo. Got them right up there among the top groups in the Big Ten. The rest of these, don't get mad. We're just splitting hairs on some of these. They're all good. and we could probably jumble these around in any order we want. At number 5, we got Oregon running back Jordan James transferring in, 891 all-purpose yards and 12 touchdowns and a yard per carry average over 7. Something to keep an eye on there at Oregon this season. At number 6, we got Ohio State Buckeyes Trevion Henderson, who comes back, 1,155 all-purpose yards, 11 touchdowns last year, and an average of 5.9 yards per carry. Pretty solid. So 2 of the Buckeyes running backs in the top 6, 2 Penn State running backs in the top 4. So between those 2 schools, Penn State and Ohio State, loaded at running back. At number 7, we got Donovan Edwards. Now, a lot of you Michigan fans will be going, wait a minute, that dude needs to be higher. Well, yes, but not yet. Donovan had 746 all-purpose yards and 5 touchdowns last year and an average of 4.2 per carry. But look, the deal last year in Michigan, Blake Corum was the guy. And even though Donovan Edwards is very talented, remember, how many games did he go? He didn't get his first touchdown until late in the year. And I can say he was struggling, but I think he had a little bit of trouble getting his rhythm going because Blake Corum was the main guy. Now, if we're going to do these power rankings later on in the season this year, I'm sure Donovan Edwards is going to move up significantly because he's going to be the focal point of this Michigan offense this year. And Blake Corum's gone, and we all got a good look at what Donovan Edwards could do in the championship game against Washington. He's explosive. He can do everything. And I do expect him to. We'll do this later in the season. We'll update this list as we will as the season goes on. And I think Donovan Edwards will be flying up this chart. Shout out at number 8 to Washington's Jonah Coleman. 1,154 all-purpose yards, 6 touchdowns at a 6.8 yard per carry from a transfer from Arizona. He's the one that's transfer. I may have said that Oregon Jordan James transfer. I meant Jonah Coleman. So, but I still give Jordan James props at number 5 at Oregon. Washington's Jonah Coleman coming in from Arizona. Big yard per carry guy. And I want to give note at number 9, Minnesota's Darius Taylor. He got hurt last year, but he's something we need to keep an eye on. 3 times he was freshman of the week, the freshman out of Detroit. He only played 6 games, and he was freshman of the week 3 of those 6 times. 799 yards. In fact, he averaged 133 yards per game that he played. If he stays healthy and plays a full season, this is another name that's going to move up the list. And then rounding out at number 10, Purdue's Devin Maccabee. He was all Big Ten honorable mention. 6th in the Big Ten with 67 yards per game, 800 yards, over 800 yards rushing. Another one to keep an eye on. So there's your list. Look, the Big Ten is loaded. If there's a couple of things that the Big Ten does, plays defense, and it runs the football. Some people may call it a little old-fashioned. I call it smash mouth, physical football, punch in the mouth, and go. And you got to have good running backs. And there are a lot of good running backs in the Big Ten. So there's our list in our preseason running backs rankings, if you will. So hope you enjoy that list. Maybe I'll have somebody else. Let me know. Hit me up on many ways for you to hit me up on Twitter at X at Talk Big Ten. Comments on YouTube. You guys are very vigorous there with all that. Always enjoy that and the back and forth. And don't forget our website, talkbig10number10.com. Again, where all of our podcasts go. You can hit me with an email there as well. And you can buy merchandise from your favorite team as you get ready for the upcoming 2024 season. Whatever you do after this, watch another podcast of Locked On Big Ten. You can find them at our website, talkbig10number10.com. Before you go, though, subscribe if you don't mind. And follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it comes available each and every day. When you're done with us, there's more. Don't forget our friends from Locked On Sports Today, here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe there when you're done here. Again, it's the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. We will continue focusing on Big Ten teams every single day. Tomorrow, we are going to look at the Wisconsin Badgers and that quarterback situation they got going on there. Tyler Van Dyke, is he going to be the guy? Luke Fickell. Can talk some Badgers. All right. That's tomorrow as we preview every Big Ten team, one per day now for like the next. We got 3 down, 15 more to go. Going to cover it all. Love every minute of it. Tell your friends about it. Word of mouth, spread it, and get this thing growing even more and more. We are past 9,000 subscribers. We're making our approach for 10,000, hopefully before the season starts. You can help us out with that as well. Enjoy the visit as well, and I can't wait to talk to you tomorrow. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.